This is not a motivational speech. If you're in this industry, in the United States of America, in this decade, you better already be motivated. I can't help you. There's nothing I'm going to say in the 45 minutes, hour up here that's going to, quote, change your life, transform you, motivate you, and take you to the heights of something. So if that's your expectation, I don't want to waste your time. Fair enough? I am here to answer 3 critical questions in about the first 90 seconds. First question, who am I? Second, what am I going to talk about? And 3, why should you care? Who am I? I'm an individual who had the pleasure for 33 years of serving with the national treasures of America, the sons and daughters you entrusted to me. And they taught me an awful lot. That's who I am, and I got a whole lot more out of them than they ever, I got a whole lot more out of them than I ever gave. What am I going to talk about? I'm going to talk about the leadership lessons they shared with me, both superiors, peers, but most especially subordinates that they shared with me, that helped me get through those tough times people talked about, that helped me come to and get grips around and close with situations as they broke upon us. Why should you care? Because you're leading people. Now, when I speak to audiences in your career field, I get this kind of an answer when I say that. General, you don't get it. We're not in the Army. Come on, I got 4 people in a branch office someplace. Leadership says, y'all here? I mean, that's like about it. I'm not leading anybody. And then I ask this question. Whenever I hear that, I ask this next question. You got clients? And the answer always is what? Or it's, I hope so. I say, good. How are you leading them? How are you engaged in a relationship with them? How are you proactively counseling, consulting, facilitating, and helping their best get better by helping your best get better? How are you leading and doing that? Because I submit you're not only leading the folks in your branch office, however many there are, you're also engaged in a leadership-type relationship with your clients. Because it is not a leadership relationship of, do what I say or else. It's, let's do this together to figure out how we both benefit. Agree? Oh, that was a real, I don't know, I'm listening. Is this a graded exercise for graduation? I just want to know. Okay. So that's what I'm going to talk about. That's who I am, what I'm going to talk about, and why the reasons I think you should care. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. I got some start points to talk about, 3 start points where we're going to start from at the starting line. I'm going to share with you 4 expectations that people have of you when you're leading them. If you are leading individuals, these are 4 expectations they have. Then we're going to take a break, and we're going to open the floor for questions. Any questions you got, I'll take on. Then finally, we'll go back, and I've got a couple of thoughts to leave you with. Work for you, fair enough? Okay, let's get to work. Start points. Maury Stewart, I've had the great honor to not only meet him, but engage in a really great relationship with Maury. And one of the things I've noticed is Maury talks about the miracle of life insurance. Talks about it all the time. Leadership's not a miracle. Leadership's not a miracle. Miracles are things we Catholics understand as a miracle is something that occurs that you can't explain. You can't explain it. It happened. How did it happen? I don't know. Guess we got to take it on faith. It must be a miracle. And that's what a miracle is. It's something that you can't explain. In this environment with your clients, looking at them, taking all their paperwork, saying, trust me, this will all work out, you'll have 10% growth, and when they ask how it happens, you tell them it'll be a miracle, have a nice day. Not happening. They expect attention to detail, competence, dedication, patience, and they expect someone who will listen in this environment. Because the great fear I see in this environment financially, as I go around the country and do this, is not that we had a crash, not that we had a recession. We've had those before. What really scares people is how fast it was, how sudden it was, and how when they ask around, how did this happen, the answer they get back is, I don't know. Stuff happens. Wasn't me. So you've got to think your way through when you're leading folks, how do you put things in a context they can understand versus trying to appear miraculous all the time. So leadership is not a miracle. Second, start point. I get people who tell me, Boles, yeah, I'm glad you're in the Army with all those budgets and everything else, but you don't know what it's like in times like these. You don't have a clue what it's like in times like these. It's really tough. And I listen to him and I say, yeah. And I had a boss once, I said that I was really getting ground up on a project. And I said, man, I don't know, man, it's really tough in times like this, boss, doing this project. And this four-star looked at me and said, Boles, what you don't understand is there have always been times like these. There are always times that are going to challenge us, always times that are going to stress us, always times that are going to put us under the gun. When the heat's high, the pressure's on, and the outcome's uncertain. So don't think you have a monopoly today on the tough times. Let me take you through just what the nation's gone through since 1976 when I got commissioned. 1976, June 1976, I get commissioned. I'm in Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland, born and raised New York City. I'm going up to New York City for the 200th anniversary of the American independence. Can't wait. My sergeant's talking to me, says, you going up to New York? Yeah. How you getting there? I'm going to take the Amtrak train. Stops right in New York City. I'll get another train, be at my parents' house, quick. Going to wear your uniform? Yeah. 200th birthday of America. What do you mean I'm not going to wear my uniform? Sir, Vietnam's just over. Civilians don't really like you wearing the uniform. Makes them uncomfortable. Ooh. I'd been in the Army like, what, 3 days? He'd been in the Army, been to Vietnam, everything else. I hadn't thought about that. Today, I go to airports, and our soldiers can't go from here to the exit door without getting stopped about 20 times. Don't tell me things haven't changed. But I remember 1976 and what it took to get out from that. Remember 1976? In 1972, our presidential choices were one distinguished senator from South Dakota who served his nation with distinction in peace and war, and the other person was a person who'd been the vice president of the United States, running for election. By 1976, we had gotten to a congressman from Michigan who didn't want the job initially, and a governor from Georgia in 1976 to run for office. That's what we had gotten to that quickly. Who predicted that? 1980, the Soviets invade Afghanistan. We boycott the Moscow Olympics. In 1978, our #1 ally in the Persian Gulf is Iran and the Shah. By 1980, Iran and the Shah are history, and a new Islamic Republic has stood up in Iran. Who predicted that? In the 1980s, our #1 ally in the Persian Gulf is who? Iraq. Iraq is our #1 ally. When they're fighting the Iranians, who's feeding them intelligence and information? We are. By the end of the decade, 1989, 1990, we're fighting in Iraq. People say the economy's really tough. Captain Boles remember the 1986? I remember walking around Boston, Massachusetts, trying to explain 16% mortgage rates to my wife. Yeah, honey, we're going to love Boston, but we ain't buying a house. I remember that. I remember the 1987 crash in October. Y'all remember that? You lie like a rug. You don't remember that. I'm at Babson College finishing my afternoon classes, getting some dinner, and going to go to class that night. My phone rings. My wife's a labor and delivery nurse at Newton Wellesley Hospital. I get on the phone and say, honey, what do you want? She goes, honey, yeah, dear. Does it mean anything to us if the stock market dropped 500 points today? Not anymore. But I had to ask the next question. Why do you ask? She said, well, I'm here taking care of patients in the labor delivery ward. They're getting ready to deliver, and the doctors are coming in, checking them, running back out, grabbing the only phone on the wall, yelling into it, using a lot of four-letter words and hyphens, and throwing it back, coming in, saying they can't get in touch with their bleep, 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 bleep broker. I remember that. And folks never thought we'd come out of that. In 1992, there were 100 sites on the World Wide Web as we elect a governor from Arkansas to be president. God knows how many there were. I could tell you now, by the time I finished the sentence, it'd double or something. Well, Boles, that's really interesting. We really appreciate it. What's the point? The point is, you cannot sit here and pray that you just get challenges you can handle. You've got to put yourself in a position where you can strengthen yourself to be able to take whatever breaks upon you. You have to harden yourself and strengthen yourself and your organization so you can take it when it comes. Not just sit there and say, I hope whatever happens today I can handle. That's not a miracle either. And the third thing I want to leave you with as a start point is something I call the morality of competence. I was a young lieutenant colonel getting ready to take over an organization, about 1,700 soldiers. And I found out I was really, we like to call commanders the old man. I was. I looked around, there was about one or two others about my age and experience, but everybody else were young lieutenants doing a job for the first time, young captains being captains for the first time, first sergeants being first sergeants for the first time. It was really different. And we're talking to a bunch of guys one day, and I was talking to one of these general officers, and he said, well, you have to work real hard when they're new in this job of making sure they understand the standards required. You got to spend your time showing new folks what right looks like, because they don't know. And if you don't tell them, no one will. I said, well, sir, that's really hard. You know, that's a lot of stuff to teach them. And he looked me dead in the eye, and he said, Boles, it's about the morality of competence. If you are incompetent, and you don't make sure they're competent to do what they do, and you don't dedicate yourself to getting them competent and ready for what the nation needs them to do, when the nation asks them to do it, they will fail, they will die, and they will not come home. You have failed, you have been immoral in your responsibility to ensure their competence. Made me look at the training schedule a whole new way. What happens if you're not competent? What happens if you don't step up or you don't make sure your folks step up to be as competent as they can be, like you're doing in events like this and knowledge summits like this? It's not a nice-to-do thing. It's not something you can fit in. If you fail to do it, it's immoral. You've stepped up and manifested yourself and pulled yourself off as being competent in doing it, and if you fail in that, you're immoral. So those are the start points. It's not a miracle. In times like these, there have always been times like these. And finally, there's a morality to competence. You with me so far? Okay, let's get into the 4 expectations folks have of leaders. I would go around and I would talk to my commanders, and I would talk to them and I'd say, well, how's it going? And you'd always get a commander who'd want to make sure I knew how their folks weren't doing everything they wanted them to do. They're not meeting my expectations, they're not meeting my standards, they're not doing this, they're not doing this, yada, yada, complain, complain, complain. And I listened to that, and have any of you been in the service industry? Ever? I was born and raised in the service industry. My dad was I had 2 parents, an 8th grade education between the 2 of them, and we lived on a 4th floor of a 5-story walk-up in a 2-bedroom apartment in New York City. I thought every kid shared a room with 3 brothers and got 4 hangers and 1 drawer. I thought that was the deal. I just thought it was. And I got raised in the service business. And I always noticed there were some people that wanted to get in the waiter, waitress business or bartender business, and you could always tell if they were fitting in or not when they had this attitude like, you know, this would be a great place if it wasn't for all these customers. Well, we got folks like that in the Army. They get to be commanders and they look around and they try to get stuff done, and their attitude is, well, this would be a great place if it wasn't for all these soldiers around here. You know, if everybody just do what I told them to do when I told them to do it, it'd all be okay. I looked at the guy and says, well, so they're not meeting your expectations? No, sir. Okay. How are you meeting their expectations? They got expectations? Their expectation is I'm in charge, sir. I'm in charge, I'm supposed to be in charge. That's their expectation. I think it's a little more nuanced than that, stud. Come on over here, let's talk about this. So the first expectation I want to talk to you about, these are expectations your folks have of you. The first expectation they have is that you will establish structure. You will establish a structure for them to work within. And a structure can either mean the wiring diagram, how you sort people out, spaces and faces. I find it can also mean letting them understand how you're wired. How do you like to make decisions? How do you like to manifest data and process it and sort it out? Have you ever had a boss? Anybody had a boss? Yeah. Okay. Have you ever, in your experience of time of having a boss, ever said, I'd give them what they want if I just knew what it was. You ever had that happen? If I just knew what my boss wanted, I'd give it to them. And they spend all their energy trying to figure out what you want as a boss. And you go to the boss and go, when are you going to tell them? And the boss goes, I'll figure it out. That's how I learned. Oh, there's a good reason to do it again. Yeah. They shouldn't have to spend all their energy trying to figure out what you want. They should spend all their energy giving you what you want. But I see leaders again and again and again throw a task over the transom to their folks and go, here, go figure this out. And I go, how are they going to figure that out? He goes, I don't know. Come sort it out. Sorting's hard. Sorting's hard. I had bosses, when I was in the Pentagon, I had one boss who was, it was the elevator speech boss. How to brief that boss getting ready to go to a meeting? You better be able to do it in the elevator going up. You better be able to sort the issues out. You better be real smart on it and be so smart you can digest it, give it to the boss, send him into the Chief of Staff of the Army, the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, and say, here's the deal. I've had other bosses who I get a 300-page staff study, and they say, give me the study, I want to read it. Especially new bosses. Don't know who to trust yet, so they'll do it all themselves. So every week, every Friday afternoon, we build, you know lawyers have those big briefcases, check? Call them bricks. We just build a brick, put all these 300-page reports in, send it to them. That'll last about 2 weeks. They come back, say, start reading this. Okay, good, we got it. But I had that boss, you know, they'd want to grind through it. And then I had the most fun boss I had in the Army. That boss would say, give me the executive summary and the elevator speech, and give me the 300-page report. I'll look at them both, and I'll grade your homework. Oh, that was a joy. A joy, true joy. But they expect you to establish a structure. How do you like to operate? Do you know how your clients are structured? Which clients need data laid out, boom, boom, boom? And which clients just are going to keep listening, and all of a sudden when they feel comfortable with it, it's going to click in. My first insurance agent, God rest his soul, was a New York Life agent who retired out of the Army, and we were the first policy he wrote. And he came over to lay it all out, and he'd known us for a couple of years. And he knew the drill. He came in, sat down, pulled all the sheets out, everything else, said, hi, Vinny, how are you? Turned and started talking to Cheryl. He knew the drill. He knew the deal. And I looked over at him and said, you're going to do fine. Do you know how your clients are wired? Not to manipulate them, but to better serve them. How many of you have walked away from a client interaction and said to yourself, I just wish I knew what they want. I can't get my hands around it. I got all these practice. I got all these products. If I just knew what they wanted, I could build something. Had that happen? Yeah? So establish structure. Second thing they expect you to help them do is manage relationships. Manage relationships. What are the critical relationships they have to have managed? What critical relationships in your community are very important to you getting your work done? What are critical relationships in your industry that are key to getting your work done? Now, at this point in time, in your industry, I get the eye roll, I get the sigh, and I get the General Boles. You're kind of new to this. We're people. We're all about relationships. We're all over this. Move on to the next subject. And I say, really? They say, yes. I say, good. I have a test for you. We'll test you and see how good you are in relationships. Take a sheet of paper, draw a line down the middle. And you can do this at home. At the top of the paper, write down the internal relationships in the industry that are key for you to managing and your being effective. What are the key internal relationships you've got to manage and manage well to be effective? On the other side of the paper, write the external relationships, whether in your community, other associations, other parts, external relationships you need to manage in order to be effective. And when you've done that, put that piece of paper down, go pick up your calendar and see where you've spent your time the last 6 months. Saying hi at the Rotary Club doesn't pass for managing a critical relationship. Use your calendar as a forcing function to manage your relationships. Identify your critical relationships and manage them, because your folks expect you to do that, because the better you manage relationships, the more effective they can be in getting their work done. The third thing they expect you to do that's very critical is they expect you to balance risk. They expect you to help them balance risk, especially critical in your industry. Agreed? Because you are not in a risk avoidance industry. There is risk all around. What's one of the key tenets you do when you size up a client? You look at them and you're trying to get to the critical question: how much risk can you handle? And they say what? Whole bunch. The market drops 500 points. Not so fast. Or they say no risk. No risk. Okay, got 2% growth for the next 5 years. Can you do a little better? How much more risk you want? So your key component is helping them balance risk. The point I leave you with on that is you cannot avoid risk. There are individuals who seek to avoid risk. They don't want any risk at all. Those people are dreaming. There is risk everywhere. Your challenge is to balance risk, and what risk mitigation strategies can you put in place? When I was in Iraq, and I had 2,000 trucks on the road every day, going in the face of an enemy that wanted to kill my kids. My kids couldn't look at me and say, "Sir, we want to drive where the enemy isn't." They had to sit there and say, "Sir, I got to go to Grid Square 394362 to send 50,000 gallons of fuel to a tank battalion that needs it. And if I don't show up, those tanks are 72-ton radios. They're not going anywhere. So I got to fix that, so I know I've got to go." So my mission was to risk mitigate. Well, how do I risk mitigate? You train them. You arm them. You equip them. You watch their equipment. You track their training. You have reinforcement standing by. But you've got to balance risk for folks. I had to balance that risk every day because I knew I wasn't in the risk avoidance business. I was in the risk mitigation business. So the question for you in balancing risk is, how do you help your clients understand risk, balance risk, and how do you help them mitigate risk? So the expectations we've gone through so far: establish a structure for them to operate in, manage critical relationships so you're not surprised by them. You know, have you ever had, you know, the way I explain managed relationships is you move into a neighborhood, brand new, check, move in. The time to meet your neighbor is when you move in. The time to meet your neighbor is not when you've had 4 beers, there's a fire on your roof, and you're going over in your underwear going, "Can I borrow your hose?" That's not the first time they want to see you. So you've got to manage that relationship. They also expect you, after you've managed a relationship, to help them balance risk, mitigate risk, and work with risk. Not get comfortable with it, but mitigate it. You never want to get comfortable with risk. You want to mitigate risk. And the fourth critical thing leaders do, that they expect you to do, is make decisions. Wow. American College brought a retired 2-star general of the United States Army to the Liddy Lectureship Series to tell us leaders make decisions. Ain't you a smart one, General Boles? I bet you got an A on your leadership exam somewhere, didn't you? Leaders make decisions. Golly, thanks so much for sharing, sir. And I used to think that too. Until July 1993. I was at Fort Riley, Kansas, and I had attained my life's dream up to that point. I was given the privilege of commanding a battalion in the 1st Infantry Division at Fort Riley. I don't know all this Army stuff. I'll make it simple. 18,000 soldiers in an infantry division. They got lots of stuff. If those 18,000 soldiers ate it, drank it, fueled it, drove it, broke it, needed medical attention for it, one of my soldiers touched it. Because our organization was the 701st Main Support Battalion. Main Support Battalion. So keep it this way. 18,000 kids need support. You're looking at the big dog who did it, or had a lot of kids do it for him. I thought I couldn't wait to get to that job. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. I'd trained my life for that job, and I got that job. Been in the job about 30 days. And I'm a walk-around kind of leader. So I went down to my warehouse area, my shop area, maintenance area. And it's a big area, about 3 kilometers by 3 kilometers. And all our vehicles are there, and all our warehouses are there, and everything else. And right at the beginning, as you start to walk into the area, there's a guard shack right here. So I'm a walking kind of guy. I walk into the guard shack. There's a young soldier there. Have you ever been around somebody, regardless of their level in the organization, who's on it? Who's really on it, who owns their piece of the organization? You ever been around somebody like that? Whether they're on the loading dock, whether they're at the front reception desk or whatever else, they own their piece of the operation and they're into it. You ever been around somebody like that? I need a training. Sir, can I get your name? Your last name? Zachary. Yes, I never get Smith. I never do, no. Well, we got PFC Zachary in the guard shack that day. And Zachary's one of those kids. Sees me come in, steps up, says, Colonel Boles, what can I do for you, sir? I said, Zachary, what do you do here? He said, sir, I run the guard shack. What does run in the guard shack mean? I'm new here. Sir, the first thing I do is we got all these supplies and all these warehouses and all this maintenance equipment here. So the first thing I do is I check the vehicles that come through to make sure they're authorized to be supported by us, so that they go to the right place, and if not, I direct them to where they're supposed to go. Okay. What else do you do? Sir, I check all the vehicles that leave, and I check their manifest against what they have. So what does that mean? Sir, if they came in to get 4 radios and 12 tires and 10 weapons, I make sure they don't walk out with 104 tires, 112 batteries, and 200 weapons. Pretty critical job. So I watch him for a couple of vehicles, and he's all over it. He needs my help like a hole in the head. He knows people, he's interacting with them, he's checking things, found a couple of mistakes, sent them back, sorted it out. This kid's all over it. Needs me for nothing. So I leave Zachary, and I walk about the distance from here to the back door, and my operations shop is there. Operations, real simple. We do support. The 18,000 folks call into the operations shop, say, here's what we need, and somebody in my operations shop figures out who does it. You with me? So my operations shop is getting questions, getting taskers. And I know where the back door is, so I walk in the back door, because we all know what happens when the boss comes in the front door, right? So I walk in the back door, I'm standing there, and I'm watching it. It's about half the size of this area here. About 17 folks working there, and it is humming. It is humming. Phones are ringing, people are at the counter getting service, things are going back and forth, people are posting stuff on computers and boards, and I'm standing here going, yes, this is great. I'm loving this. This is my house, yes. And it was going great. I said, this is wonderful. You ever had bosses who've had pet peeves? Oh, you should hear those rumbles going, You ever had bosses that had pet peeves, little things they did? They weren't illegal, unethical, or fattening, but they were kind of strange. I had one boss, blue 3x5 cards and green flare markers. I don't know why. But whenever I went up and started talking to him, if he started going like this, I better be pulling out the right color 3x5 card and marker, or I was going to be taking a lot of notes. It was just his thing. Well, my thing, I've had a couple of pet peeves. One of my pet peeves was always chin straps buckled, because I thought it was pretty critical and a good indicator of discipline. I always had another one, which was seat belts buckled. And my third pet peeve I had was if the phone rang more than 3 times. I just get a little antsy. I don't know why I'm that way. I don't know if when I was a young baby, my mother whispered in my ear as I was sleeping, don't let the phone ring more than 3 times. I don't know. But that's my thing. Phone starts ringing about 2.5 times, and I start looking over going, is somebody going to get that? Well, I'm in my operations shop. And I'm standing there, and everybody's busy. This is way before, voicemail and stuff. And I'm standing there at a desk, and the phone starts ringing. There is nobody around to answer the phone. I'm a helping kind of guy. Hello, 701st Maine Support Battalion. This is the Support Operations Shop. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Boles. Can I help you? Oh, God. Nervous. Last person they expected to get on the phone was the battalion commander. They probably wanted Corporal Smith, Sergeant Jones. They got Lieutenant Colonel Boles, for God's sakes. Kid probably never met Lieutenant Colonel in his life. I'm a professional. I've done this before. I'll calm him down. Hey, know you're a little nervous. Don't worry about it. I've done this before. Just tell me what you need, and I'll get you hooked up with the right group, and we'll sort out your requirement. Just tell me what you need. Oh, God. Still nervous. Try one more time. Hey, look, I know you're a little nervous. Don't worry about it. Man, I just want to hook you up with the right person you need. Just tell me what section you need. Sir, this is PFC Zachary. I'm supposed to call the operations shop whenever Colonel Boles shows up? Really? Stand by. About that point in time, one of my grade sergeants, Spidey sense started tingling, and they looked over and went, it's Colonel Boles, sir, what do you need? I said, hey, Sergeant Cheney, yeah. PFC Zachary wants you to know Colonel Boles is here. Kind of funny, huh? Yeah. I thought so too until I thought about it that night. Then it wasn't so funny. Then it wasn't so funny. How dare they? The United States government and the United States Army had made a competitive decision that I was qualified to be responsible for the command, support, training, and readiness of those soldiers and their families. And somebody in that organization had made a decision that the organization needed to be protected from me because I couldn't be trusted to walk around and see people. I didn't like that. I started trying to find out who did that. They all started moonwalking like Michael Jackson. Well, sir, you know, it was the guy before you. It wasn't us, you know, whatever. I started working through that. How much energy did that suck up? How long did that phone call take? I just mimicked here. 90 seconds, 2 minutes? About that? That's not the critical question. Here's the critical question. How many vehicles did Zachary miss going in and out doing his real job because he was playing around doing this thing? How did we as an organization set up rules so Zachary couldn't do his real job? We gave him something else to do that sucked up his time, sucked up his energy. You think that young soldier was sitting there going, I just met this colonel, he seemed like a pretty nice guy. Why do I need to warn everybody? What decisions are getting made like that in your organization that if you knew about them would really toss you off? What suboptimal decisions are getting made in your organization? Because you don't make every decision. Which ones are getting made that are going to surprise you? When you have a staff meeting, when do you look around to your folks and go, so tell me what decisions you made this week? The answers will surprise you. The answers will surprise you. Establish structure, manage relationships, balance risk, make decisions.